Let's do a little more practice with the equation of a circle. So instead of just being given the center or given a picture of the circle, I wanted to talk about what if we were given 2 points that were on the diameter. So I said find the equation of a circle that has points -3, 2. Let me put that point right here. And 5, -4. Let me put that point right here as the endpoints of a diameter. So you can imagine, this circle doing something like this. Please excuse my poor drawing. But the important part of this is to realize that a diameter connects the endpoints, but it must go through the center. That's the definition of a diameter. A chord is just any line that connects 2 points, but that's not what we're talking about here. A diameter cuts through the center. So the first thing I would like to do is I would like to figure out where the center of the circle is. Well, the nice thing is it's the midpoint of this diameter. So we're going to use our midpoint formula. If you remember, the midpoint formula just says add up your x's, so -3 and 5, and divide by 2. It's the average. And then we do the same things for the y's. Just add them up, divide by 2. So -3 plus 5 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 plus -4 is -2, and -2 divided by 2 is -1. So right here, which even despite my kind of poor drawing, that is the center of my circle. Well, now I already have the initial then equation, because remember we always do the opposite. So we're going to have x minus 1. Remember, even though the center is 1, we do the opposite. We basically do the solution where 1 would be the 0. So, if I plugged 1 in, this would be 0. So do the opposite. And then for y, we're going to have y minus -1, or you could just say +1. It's the opposite. But now we need the radius, because remember our equation is always that it's equal to the radius squared. Well, there are a couple ways you could do this. One way is you could say, well, I could find the length of the diameter using the distance formula, and then I could just divide that diameter in half, and then I'd have the radius. Or now that you have the center, you could use your center and find the distance from the center to either one of those endpoints, because of course this distance is the same. I'm going to do that. I'm going to use my distance formula. So remember, the distance formula is the square root of the difference in my x's. And again, I'm going to use this. I'm going to use my point that I found here, my center, and I'm just going to pick the first point for no other reason than it was the first point. Okay, so we're going to find the difference in my x's, how far they are apart, and square it. And then we're going to do the same thing for the y's. Yeah. So 1 minus -3 is 4. 4 squared is 16. -1 minus 2 is -3, and squared is 9. Well, 16 plus 9 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. That's my radius. Of course, my equation always says it's equal to the radius squared. So, you can say, well, it's 5 squared. Let me kind of write this cleaned up a little bit. We're going to have x minus 1 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 25. And there then is the equation of that circle. So just use the formulas we've been working with. If you have 2 endpoints of the diameter, you can just say, well, I can find the center by finding the midpoint. And I have a couple of different ways I could find the radius. I could either use these 2 points. Just remember the diameter is double the radius. So if you're going to use these 2 points to do distance, you've got to divide your distance by 2. Otherwise, you could just use the center and one of the points. It didn't matter which one. I could have used either point because, the definition here of the midpoint is it broke these two into congruent segments. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe for more math help.